Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Have you ever felt like you're putting your all into a relationship but still hitting a brick wall?
Yeah, like you're speaking totally different languages.
Exactly.
It's a struggle I think so many of us face.
For sure.
And today we're diving into a book that offers some seriously refreshing perspectives on relationships. It's Stacey Martino's The Missing Piece.
Ooh, interesting.
And it's not your typical self-help, feel-good kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Think of it more like a guide to understanding the mechanics of how relationships actually work.
I like that.
You can grab the book through the link in the description if you want to follow along.
Definitely check it out. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future deep dives. Okay, so this book blew my mind with this idea. It's not about personalities or fixing your partner. It's about learning specific skills.
Mm-hmm.
And get this. Stacey says you don't even need your partner on board to start seeing a change.
Yeah, it's empowering, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. One person consistently using these relationship development skills can shift, the whole dynamic.
Wow.
It's a total game changer.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Right.
Tell me more about this relationship development thing. What's the opposite of that?
Well, the opposite is what Stacey calls demand relationship.
Okay.
And it's what so many of us do without even realizing it.
Oh, really?
It's like trying to control or change our partners, pleading, pushing, hinting.
Yeah.
It comes from a good place,
Right.
but it backfires.
You mean like when I try to, subtly suggest my partner do the dishes? I'm totally guilty of that.
Right.
It makes sense, though. If I'm constantly trying to change him, it's probably not going to make him feel very loved or accepted for who he is,
Exactly. The book argues that approach just creates more distance.
Okay.
Relationship development, on the other hand, is about learning skills that improve how we interact, not who the other person is.
So it's about working smarter, not harder in our relationships.
Absolutely.
That's a concept I can get behind.
To illustrate this shift, Stacey talks about learning to train her dog, Putty.
Oh.
She thought Putty needed to be trained better.
Yeah.
But it turned out she needed to learn how to work with Putty's natural wiring,
Interesting.
not against it.
So it's like we're trying to teach our partners to speak a language they don't understand
Totally.
instead of learning how to communicate in a way that resonates with them.
That's such a powerful analogy.
It is. It highlights how we often approach relationships based on our wiring, not on understanding the other person's.
You're right.
That's where the frustration comes in.
Yeah.
And that's where the missing piece comes in to help us bridge that gap.
Okay, so how do we start bridging that gap? I'm ready to ditch the demand relationship and level up my skills.
The first step is recognizing those moments, when we're about to react impulsively.
The book calls this the space within the moment. It's that tiny pause between something happening and our, usual knee-jerk reaction.
Wait, so you're telling me I have a choice in how I react?
Yeah.
I always thought I was just wired to be a hothead.
You absolutely have a choice. It's not easy.
Right.
But with practice, we can use that space to choose a more constructive response. Instead of just exploding or shutting down, it's about becoming aware of our patterns and then consciously choosing a different path.
That's actually really encouraging.
Yeah.
So how do we even start recognizing those moments? Because honestly, I feel like I'm on autopilot most of the time.
One helpful tool Stacey introduces is the brick wall between you.
Okay.
Think about it like this. Every unresolved issue, every past hurt or argument,
Yeah.
it adds a brick to this wall, between you and your partner.
Ooh, I'm feeling that visual already. It's like all that baggage is constantly blocking us from truly connecting.
Exactly.
Even when we're trying our best.
And those bricks don't just disappear on their own. Right.
They need to be addressed and resolved if we want to truly experience that deep connection. Stacey calls this process face it, own it, and solve it.
Okay. So that's step one. Recognize those moments where I'm about to react.
Yeah.
Then we face the issue head on, take responsibility for our part, and then start working towards a solution. No more sweeping things under the rug.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Sometimes we're not even in the right headspace to face it effectively.
Okay.
The book talks about this concept of the 50% line. Have you ever noticed how being stressed or upset makes you react to your partner, differently?
Oh, 100%. Last week, I was already having a terrible day, and then my partner forgot to pick up milk on his way home, and I totally lost it.
Oh, no.
Looking back, it was such a small thing, but in that moment,
Yeah.
it felt like the end of the world.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of being below the 50% line, where we're more likely to, overreact.
Yeah.
The book suggests that when we're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or upset.
It's crucial to take some time to regulate our own state before engaging in important conversations.
So it's like hitting the pause button on the conversation and giving ourselves some space to
Mhm.
cool off and, get back to a more neutral state
Exactly.
before things escalate.
It's not about suppressing our emotions,
Right.
but about managing them in a way that allows for healthier communication.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
But what about when it's my partner who's below the 50% line? How do I deal with that?
That's where drop your sail comes in.
Okay.
Imagine a sailboat being pushed off course by a strong wind.
Mhm.
Instead of fighting against the wind, dropping the sail lets the boat ride out the storm
Okay.
without being completely blown off course.
So it's about not taking their words or actions personally when they're in that reactive state
Yeah,
and recognizing that it's not really about me.
you got it.
Okay.
It's about protecting your own energy and emotional well-being while still, being present for the other person.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean you condone their behavior, but it prevents you from getting sucked into their emotional vortex.
Wow, this is really shifting my perspective on how to approach those tricky situations. It feels like I'm finally getting some like concrete tools to deal with those frustrating patterns that always seem to pop up.
It's about empowering yourself to respond differently,
Yeah.
even when things feel challenging. And one of the keys to shifting those reactions is understanding the missing pieces in a situation.
Okay.
The book talks about how this understanding can lead to genuine changes in how we respond.
So instead of trying to force myself to be nicer
Yeah.
while secretly still feeling resentful, I need to actually understand what's going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. Instead of just trying to change our behavior, the missing piece encourages us to look deeper,
Yeah.
to understand, the root of the issue, which then naturally leads to a change in our responses. It's not about pretending everything's okay. It's about getting to the core of why we react the way we do and shifting our perspective from the inside out.
I love that.
Ah.
So what are some of the missing pieces
Mm.
we need to start paying attention to?
Well, the book dives deep into the idea that differences in how people are wired play a huge role. These differences aren't flaws, they're just things to understand and work with.
Uh-huh.
For example, it talks about processing speed types and the differences between masculine and feminine core energies.
Okay, hold on. I'm intrigued. Let's talk about those processing speed types first.
Okay, sure.
What's that all about?
Stacey outlines 4 types,
Yeah.
ranging from quick bunnies to slow and methodical.
Okay.
It's about how fast we process information, make decisions, and even transition between tasks.
So a, quote, quick processor might think a, quote, slow processor is lazy or indecisive,
Right.
when really they're just wired to move at a different pace.
Exactly. And without understanding those differences, we can end up with a lot of unnecessary judgment and blame. But when we recognize these variations as simply different ways of operating, it opens up a whole new level of compassion and understanding.
I'm trying to see how all these pieces fit together.
Hmm.
It's not about judging our partners for being, quote, wrong. It's about understanding their unique wiring and learning how to communicate and connect in a way that works for both of us.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
It's about moving from judgment to curiosity
Okay.
and recognizing that those differences are actually strengths that can enrich our relationships
Yeah.
when we know how to navigate them effectively.
Okay, so we've talked about processing speed types. What about those differences between masculine and feminine core energies? I'm really curious to explore that further.
This is where it gets really interesting. Stacey argues that a lot of relationship conflicts actually stem from a lack of understanding of these core energy differences.
Okay, so we're not just talking about gender stereotypes here.
Right. It's about something deeper than that.
It's about fundamental energetic patterns that influence how we process emotions, communicate, and approach problem solving.
Okay.
And these patterns go beyond societal expectations or gender roles.
Can you give us a concrete example of how these differences might show up in a relationship?
Absolutely. The book uses a great story about a couple, Lana and Bill,
Okay.
and their teenage daughter who comes home later than expected one night.
Ooh, I can already sense some drama unfolding.
Lana, embodying more feminine energy, is worried when her daughter doesn't come home on time. But once she learns it was just a miscommunication and her daughter is safe, she immediately feels relieved.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, embodying more masculine energy, needs more time to process his emotions.
So even though he knows, like logically, everything is fine, he's still working through those initial feelings of worry,
Yeah,
or maybe even anger.
exactly.
Yeah.
And here's where the clash happens. Lana, feeling back to her baseline, doesn't understand why Bill is still seemingly upset.
She might misinterpret his silence as like him being angry at her,
Yeah.
when really he's just processing.
That's so relatable. It's easy to see how those different processing styles can lead to misunderstandings and conflict, especially when we're not aware of those underlying dynamics.
Exactly. And the missing piece goes deeper into these nuances, explaining how masculine and feminine energies experience and like express emotions differently. For example, it talks about how masculine energy often needs time and space to like ring out like a bell after a strong emotion,
Okay.
whereas feminine energy often wants to process those emotions through conversation and connection.
That's such a helpful visual.
Yeah.
It makes me understand why my partner sometimes needs to like retreat into his man cave after a stressful day while I'm more inclined to like want to talk it out and connect.
Right. And recognizing these differences can help us avoid those like knee-jerk reactions
Mhm.
of feeling rejected or abandoned when our partner needs space,
Yeah.
or feeling smothered when we just want to offer support.
It's about respecting those differences and finding that sweet spot where we can communicate effectively without like triggering each other's insecurities.
Totally.
And speaking of communication, the book emphasizes the importance of striving for win-win solutions in relationships. What's the difference between that and just like compromising?
Compromise often involves, both people giving up something,
Mm-hmm.
leading to a like meh outcome.
Yeah.
The win-win is about finding solutions that leave both parties feeling genuinely good.
Okay.
It's not about one person winning at the expense of the other, but about like collaborating to find a solution that truly works for everyone involved.
That sounds amazing in theory, but isn't it a bit like idealistic?
It might seem that way,
Yeah.
but the missing piece provides a tool called the order of alignment to help, achieve those win-win solutions.
All right. I'm all ears. How does it work?
It's about focusing on alignment first at the like why level, then the what, and finally the how. Instead of jumping into a debate about the like solution, you start by understanding each other's like motivations.
Okay.
Imagine a couple arguing about like disciplining their kid.
Yeah.
Instead of battling over punishments, they could start by asking, why is this important to you?
So one parent might be focused on like teaching responsibility,
Yeah.
while the other is more concerned with nurturing the child's like emotional well-being. By understanding those quote whys, they can start to see the other person's perspective and find a solution that addresses, both of those needs.
Exactly. And once they've aligned on the why, they can move on to the what, the desired outcome.
Right.
Do they both want their child to learn from their mistakes? Do they both want their child to feel like loved and supported?
By clarifying the quote what, they can then brainstorm solutions that actually achieve those shared goals,
Right.
even if their initial approaches differed.
Right. And only then do they move on to the how, the practical steps to implement that solution.
So it's about like flipping the script on how we approach disagreements.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of starting with a battle of wills, we start by like seeking understanding and alignment.
And that shift in approach can make all the difference in finding solutions that, strengthen our relationships
Yeah.
rather than creating further division.
This is eye-opening. It makes you wonder how many arguments could be avoided if we just started by understanding each other's like whys
Totally.
instead of getting caught up in the hows.
It's a game changer for sure. But there's a common pitfall many couples fall into that sabotages this process.
Uh-oh.
It's called the invisible alignment predicament.
Okay.
It's this idea that like love automatically equals agreement on major life decisions.
Ah, the classic assumption that love conquers all. I think we've all fallen into that trap at some point.
It's so common. We assume we're on the same page without actually having those like crucial conversations.
Mhm.
The book describes 3 ways this predicament manifests, often leading to disagreements and attempts to like convince each other.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about these 3 ways.
First, there's the like everything's fine facade.
Okay.
Couples avoid, difficult conversations thinking things will magically work themselves out.
Right.
But like resentment builds under the surface.
Like sweeping those differences under the rug, hoping they'll just disappear. But we all know that never really works.
Right. Then there's the my way or the highway approach.
Yeah.
where one partner dominates the, decision-making, leading to resentment.
Classic power struggle.
And finally, convince and convert, where one partner tries to, persuade the other to see things their way. It turns into a debate with, both sides digging in their heels.
Ouch. I could definitely see how that would lead to more conflict and disconnection.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid these pitfalls
Yeah.
and actually start having those tough conversations in a way that strengthens our connection?
That's where the book's emphasis on, personal growth comes in. It introduces a framework called the You and You Relate framework.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the idea behind that?
It highlights that, lasting relationship improvement often starts with individual growth.
Okay.
It's about doing the you work, understanding our own triggers, needs, and, patterns before tackling relationship issues.
So it's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before helping others.
Yeah.
We need to have a solid foundation of, self-awareness before we can effectively navigate the complexities of relationships.
Precisely. It's about building a stronger sense of self.
Okay.
So we can show up in our relationships from a place of, wholeness and clarity, not neediness or reactivity.
I love that. It makes sense. If we're constantly reacting from a place of insecurity or unfulfilled needs, we're not going to be able to show up for our partner in a healthy way.
Right. And the book dives into specific strategies for doing that you work, like identifying and addressing our triggers, understanding our personal values and goals, and developing, emotional regulation skills.
So it's about taking responsibility for our own emotional well-being
Yes.
and creating a solid foundation for ourselves before we try to build a relationship with someone else. It's like building a house on solid ground instead of on, shifting sand.
You got it. And speaking of foundations, the book tackles a really relatable dynamic that often leads to feeling unappreciated in relationships, faulty relationship math.
Okay.
It's this tendency to measure our giving against what we receive, which almost always leads to feeling shortchanged.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like keeping score in a relationship, which, let's be honest, never ends well.
It never does. The book uses a great example of a couple, Fran and Brad.
Okay.
And they're differing approaches to birthdays.
Okay.
Fran goes all out for Brad.
Yeah.
Spending months planning the perfect celebration. But when her birthday rolls around, Brad's efforts fall short. And she ends up feeling unappreciated and resentful.
Oh, poor Fran. I can totally relate to that feeling of disappointment. But why does this happen? Why do we often feel like we're giving more than we're getting in relationships?
The book explains that we're using a faulty measuring stick.
Okay.
We're judging both our giving and what we receive based on our own blueprint, our own expectations and values. Naturally, our giving always seems more significant because it aligns perfectly with how we think things should be done.
So Fran is judging Brad's efforts based on her idea of a perfect birthday celebration.
Right.
Which is bound to lead to disappointment because he's coming from a totally different place.
Yeah.
It's like she's speaking Spanish and he's speaking French, and they're both wondering why the other person doesn't understand.
Exactly. And the missing piece challenges us to question this tendency to keep score.
Okay.
It argues that it, undermines our relationships and creates imbalance and resentment. So how do we break free from this faulty relationship math? How do we move away from this scorekeeping mentality and experience a greater sense of appreciation and, reciprocity? The book offers several solutions, but one key takeaway is that trust is a result, not a demand.
Okay.
We can't force our partner to meet our needs or appreciate us in the exact way we desire. Trust is built over time.
Yeah.
Through consistent actions that demonstrate rapport, alignment, and a willingness to address those bricks in the wall.
It's not about demanding trust or expecting it to appear overnight.
Right.
It's about building that foundation through consistent effort and understanding.
Totally.
It's about showing up authentically and allowing trust to, blossom organically from those actions.
You nailed it. And the book emphasizes that this approach not only strengthens our individual relationships, but also creates a, ripple effect, impacting our families, communities, and even future generations.
That's a beautiful and inspiring thought. It suggests that our efforts to cultivate, healthier, more conscious relationships can have a positive impact that extends far beyond ourselves.
Absolutely. The missing piece highlights the transformative power of relationship development. It can create a ripple of positive change that touches not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. It's about realizing that we have the power to make a difference in the world.
Wow.
one relationship at a time.
I love that. It gives me hope that even like small intentional actions can have a big impact in the world.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into part one of the missing piece. I'm already starting to see my own relationship patterns in a new light and like feeling empowered to start applying some of these tools and concepts.
It's amazing how these insights can like shift our perspective
Yeah.
and open up a world of possibilities.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning. We still have so much to uncover as we continue exploring the missing piece.
I can't wait. It truly is a journey of discovery, isn't it? And one of the things I found most eye-opening was like how sneaky demand relationship can be.
Hmm.
Like even when we have the best intentions,
Yeah.
it can creep into our communication in such subtle ways.
Oh, absolutely. Like we might think we're just venting to a friend about our partner,
Mhm.
but the book points out that even that can be a form of demand relationship.
It's called bad-mouthing our
Oh,
partners.
wow. Okay.
It might seem like harmless on the surface,
Right.
but it can really erode our relationships over time.
It's like we're subconsciously trying to get our friends to like side with us, to
Totally.
validate our perspective. But ultimately, it creates this dynamic of us versus them,
Yeah.
which isn't helpful for anyone.
Right, and it's not about never discussing challenges or seeking support from friends. It's about the intention behind those conversations.
Right.
Are we genuinely looking for understanding and solutions,
Yeah.
or are we just trying to, like, gather ammunition to
No.
use against our partner?
That's a great question to ask ourselves before we like start spilling the tea.
Right.
If we're not careful, venting can easily turn into bad-mouthing,
Uh-huh.
which
Mm.
just creates more conflict and distance.
The book suggests that instead of looking for validation from, like, outside sources,
Yeah.
we focus on communicating directly with our partner,
Good.
even when it's difficult.
So it's about taking ownership of our part in the conflict and having those, tough conversations within the relationship itself.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than seeking validation from like outside parties, it's about creating a safe and respectful space for like open communication where we can work through those challenges together.
It's not always easy,
Yeah.
but it's so much more effective in the long run. And speaking of communication breakdowns, the book talks about this dynamic called triangulation. Have you ever seen this like play out in your own relationships?
Oh, definitely. It's like when my mom tries to get me to side with her in an argument with my dad. Or when friends get pulled into like relationship drama and end up taking sides. It always makes things so much worse.
It does. The book argues that triangulation is like a recipe for disaster.
Oh.
Because it escalates the conflict and like creates further division.
Hmm.
Instead of resolving the issue between the two people directly involved, it drags other people into the mess.
It's like adding fuel to the fire instead of putting it out. And it just makes things more complicated and creates like unnecessary drama.
Mhm.
So what's the antidote to this triangulation trap?
The missing piece encourages us to resist the urge to like triangulate,
Okay.
even when it feels tempting
Yeah.
to seek that external validation or support. It's about remembering that the most effective way to like resolve a conflict
Uh-huh.
is to address it directly with the person involved.
It's about having the courage to have those tough conversations like one-on-one,
Yes.
even when it feels uncomfortable or scary. Because ultimately, that's the only way to truly create lasting change and build a stronger foundation for the relationship.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that our relationships are precious
Hmm.
and like deserve our focused attention and effort. And that brings us to another important point, developing these relationship development skills.
Yeah.
It takes time and practice.
So it's not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about embracing the journey
Totally.
and recognizing that there will be like bumps along the way.
Exactly. It's about like shifting our perspective
Okay.
from seeing mistakes as failures to seeing them as valuable learning opportunities.
Hmm.
We're all works in progress. And those moments when we like stumble are actually chances to learn, grow, and, strengthen our skills.
It's about having self-compassion and recognizing that we're not going to get it right all the time. And when we do mess up, it's an opportunity to learn from our mistakes and try again.
That's such a relief because I definitely feel like I've made my fair share of relationship blunders in the past.
We all have.
And that's okay. The important thing is to, keep learning and growing. The book provides some like helpful tools to support us on that journey, like
Okay.
the right hand, left hand concept. Have you ever felt like you were trying to like talk to a brick wall when discussing personal growth with certain loved ones?
Oh my gosh, yes. Like when I try to talk to my best friend about like my latest self-help obsession and she just rolls her eyes, it
Yeah.
can be so frustrating.
That's where the right hand, left hand concept comes in.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that not everyone in our lives is like equipped to support us on our personal growth journey.
So it's not about excluding our loved ones or judging them for like not being on the same page. It's about recognizing their limitations and seeking support from those who are on a similar path.
Exactly. Think of your right hand as those close friends and family members who like love and support you unconditionally,
Okay.
but might not fully like understand or embrace your personal development work.
They're there for you no matter what. But they might not necessarily be the best people to talk to about, your latest meditation retreat or your deep dive into relationship psychology.
Right. And then your left hand represents like your tribe, those like-minded individuals who are on a similar path of growth and can offer that like deeper level of understanding, support, and accountability.
So it's about having a diverse support system and choosing the right people to like confide in depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Like I might talk to my right-hand people about like my day-to-day struggles, but I would go to my left-hand tribe for support on, my personal growth journey.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this awareness can help us avoid those like frustrating dynamics where we feel judged or misunderstood by our loved ones, or where we inadvertently alienate them by like trying to convert them to our way of thinking.
It's about honoring those differences and finding the right support system to like help us thrive on our individual journeys.
And speaking of thriving, one of the most inspiring messages of The Missing Piece is that relationship development isn't just about like romantic relationships.
Wow.
It's about transforming all our relationships,
Oh, wow.
including those with our family, friends, colleagues,
Okay.
and even ourselves.
That's such an important point. It's about cultivating a mindset and like skill set that allows us to connect with others from a place of understanding, empathy, and a genuine desire to create, win-win outcomes in all areas of our lives.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that those skills we develop in one area can positively impact all our relationships.
It's about building a foundation of respect, communication, and understanding that can help us navigate any type of relationship
Yeah.
with more grace and ease.
And one of the most powerful aspects of this work is like the ripple effect it creates.
Mm.
When we transform our own interactions, we influence our families, communities, and even future generations.
It's like a chain reaction of positive energy.
Exactly. It reminds us that our personal growth isn't just about us.
Right.
It's about contributing to a more like loving, connected, and conscious world.
It's about realizing that we have the power to, make a difference one interaction at a time. That's such a powerful and inspiring message.
It truly is. And the book encourages us to like embrace that responsibility, to see ourselves as, agents of change
Yeah.
who can create a more like harmonious and fulfilling world for ourselves and those around us. And that's something to get excited about.
I completely agree. It's like realizing that we have this like incredible power to shape our reality and create a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond our own lives.
And that power starts with, understanding the dynamics at play in our relationships.
Right.
One of the key insights from The Missing Piece is that like relationship transformation isn't a destination.
Okay.
It's a journey.
It's about embracing the messiness and complexity of human connection and finding like joy in the process of growth and discovery.
Exactly. It's not about like fixing problems or achieving some, idealized state of relationship bliss.
Right.
It's about approaching challenges with the like right mindset and skills, recognizing that they can actually like strengthen our bonds and deepen our connection.
It's about seeing those bumps in the road as like opportunities for growth and learning
Totally.
rather than as signs of failure.
Yes.
And that shift in perspective can make all the difference in, how we experience our relationships.
It can. And speaking of like perspective shifts, one of the concepts that really stood out to me was Stacey's emphasis on the importance of, understanding and honoring the unique ways masculine and feminine energies communicate.
You're referring to those two like distinct conversations she describes, right?
Yeah.
The processing conversation and the solving conversation.
Exactly. It's such a like brilliant framework for understanding those common communication breakdowns that occur between, masculine and feminine energies.
And those breakdowns happen all the time. It's like we're speaking different languages
Totally.
and wondering why the other person doesn't understand.
Exactly. As we discussed earlier, feminine energy often seeks to process emotions through, conversation,
Right.
while masculine energy tends to focus on like finding solutions.
And without understanding those different approaches,
Yeah.
we can get stuck in these frustrating patterns where
Mm.
we feel like we're not being like heard or understood.
Absolutely. The book provides a great example of this dynamic
Okay.
involving two friends, Lily and Sarah.
Okay.
Lily's feeling overwhelmed and frustrated by a situation with like her mother and her son.
Mm-hmm.
She reaches out to Sarah for support, but their conversation kind of takes a turn when Sarah tries to like offer solutions
Yeah.
before Lily has had a chance to fully process her emotions.
It's like Sarah's jumping ahead to the solving conversation,
Yeah,
while Willie is still in the like processing conversation.
you got it. And this is where the conflict arises. Lily needs to like talk it out, to vent her frustrations and express her emotions before she's ready to consider solutions. Sarah, with the best of intentions, is trying to be helpful by offering advice and strategies.
Yeah.
But it's not what Lily needs in that moment.
I think we've all been in both Lily and Sarah's shoes at some point.
Totally.
We either want to like fix things for our loved ones,
Yeah.
or we just need someone to listen
Yeah.
without jumping into like problem-solving mode.
Yeah.
So how can we recognize those different communication styles and avoid those frustrating miscommunications?
The missing piece highlights the importance of offering like support and empathy in a way that aligns with the other person's needs, even if it doesn't come naturally to us.
Okay.
So in Lily's case, Sarah could have offered support by simply like listening attentively, validating Lily's feelings, and perhaps asking like clarifying questions to help her process her emotions.
It's about recognizing when someone needs a processing conversation versus a solving conversation. And like being present and supportive in a way that honors their needs, even if it's different from how we would approach the situation.
Exactly. And once Lily had like worked through those emotions and felt heard and understood,
Yeah.
then she might have been open to, exploring solutions. It's about respecting the other person's process and offering support in a way that feels like genuine and respectful.
This is so helpful. It's making me realize how often I jump into problem-solving mode when what my loved ones really need is just like a listening ear and a compassionate heart. I'm definitely going to be more mindful of that going forward.
It's a game changer, for sure. And the good news is it's a skill we can develop with, awareness and practice. The missing piece provides a wealth of insights and like tools to help us navigate these communication nuances and create deeper, more authentic connections.
It's about learning to speak each other's language,
Yeah,
both literally and figuratively, and that's such a powerful concept.
it is. And it's not just about romantic relationships.
Yeah.
These principles apply to all our interactions.
Whether it's with our family, friends, colleagues,
Yeah.
or even ourselves.
It's about cultivating a more like conscious and compassionate way of, relating to the world, one conversation at a time. And that's something we can all strive for, no matter where we are on our, relationship journey.
Absolutely. It really is. It's a journey of like continuous learning and growth, right?
For sure.
And it's amazing how these like subtle communication patterns can make such a big difference in our relationships. Speaking of which, one of the things Stacey emphasizes in The Missing Piece is the importance of working with a mentor or guide on this journey.
That makes sense. It's like having like a coach in the game of relationships, someone who can offer guidance, support, and like accountability as we navigate those inevitable challenges.
Exactly. And luckily, Stacey and her husband offer like programs and resources to help people put these concepts into action. You can find more information about their work in the book. Awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out. I feel like I've already learned so much from just this deep dive. It's given me a whole new perspective on how to approach, my relationships.
I'm so glad to hear that. And honestly, it's had a similar impact on me. One of the things that really resonated with me was Stacey's emphasis on action. It's not enough to just like understand these concepts intellectually.
Yeah.
We need to actually like apply them in our daily lives.
It's about taking those aha moments and like turning them into concrete actions. It's about moving from the, knowing to the doing.
Exactly. And the book provides some practical steps to help readers get started, like the relationship development progress chart and the 5 next steps.
I love how actionable the book is.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave us feeling overwhelmed,
Right.
but gives us like a clear path forward.
It does. And one of the key things Stacey emphasizes is that this work isn't just about like romantic relationships.
Right, yeah.
It's about transforming all our relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
Including those with family, friends, colleagues, and, even ourselves.
Exactly. It's about developing a way of relating to others
Mm.
that is based on understanding, empathy, and like a genuine desire to create win-win outcomes.
It's about building a foundation of like respect and connection
Yes,
in all areas of our lives.
it is. And it's about recognizing that we have the power to, create the relationships we desire, not by trying to change others,
Hmm.
but by taking responsibility for our own like growth and development.
What a powerful message.
It truly is. And as we wrap up our deep dive into the missing piece, I'm struck by its overall message of hope.
Me too. Yeah.
It's a reminder that even amidst the like inevitable challenges of relationships,
Ah,
we have the power to create lasting change.
we can cultivate deeper connection and build a more like loving and fulfilling world for ourselves
Yeah.
and everyone around us.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the missing piece. We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we did. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you the most? Share your favorite takeaway in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more explorations of, fascinating topics and thought-provoking ideas. Until next time, keep diving deep and happy relating. See you next time.